The Lakers organization just made a decision that could change everything we thought we knew about this season and potentially the next 3 years of championship contention in Los Angeles. Welcome back to Lakers News Fan Report, where I bring you the most detailed, honest analysis of every major development surrounding our beloved purple and gold. I'm here to give you the inside perspective on the moves, the strategies, and the vision that's shaping this franchise's future. Today, I need to walk you through something that's been developing behind the scenes, something that represents the kind of bold thinking that championship organizations embrace when they recognize their window is right now. Stay with me through this entire breakdown, because what I'm about to reveal will make you rethink everything you thought you knew about how this front office is approaching the rest of this season and beyond. I've covered this team through championships and disappointments, through rebuilds and reloads, and I've learned that the moves that define eras often start with conversations that seem impossible at first. The greatest franchises in NBA history share one common characteristic. They're willing to explore every avenue, no matter how audacious it might appear on the surface, when they identify an opportunity to maximize their championship odds. That's exactly what's happening right now in Los Angeles, and I need you to understand the full context before I reveal the specifics, because this isn't just about one player or one transaction. This is about the Lakers recognizing that LeBron James is still performing at an elite level at 39 years old. Anthony Davis is in his prime, and the supporting cast, while solid, might not be enough to get past the elite teams in the Western Conference when it matters most. Let me start by establishing where we are right now. The Lakers are competing, they're winning games, and they're showing flashes of the team that everyone expected them to be when the season started. But here's the honest truth that we need to confront. In a conference that includes Denver with their championship pedigree, Phoenix with their star power, the Clippers when healthy, and emerging threats like Oklahoma City and Minnesota, being good isn't enough anymore. The margin for error has shrunk to almost nothing, and championship windows don't stay open forever, especially when your best player is approaching 40 years old. I'm not being negative. I'm being realistic about the competitive landscape and what it takes to win it all in today's NBA. The front office understands this reality better than anyone, and that understanding has led them to explore possibilities that might seem far-fetched at first glance, but make complete sense when you break down the basketball logic and the strategic timing. I've been studying the landscape across the league, analyzing contract situations, evaluating team dynamics, and following the patterns that typically precede major roster reshaping. And everything I'm seeing points toward the Lakers being positioned to make a move that could fundamentally alter the championship race. Before I get into the specifics of what's actually happening, I need to set the table by talking about what the Lakers need most urgently. They need consistent perimeter shooting that defenses have to respect at the highest level. They need a player who can create offense independently when the system breaks down in playoff situations. They need someone whose gravity alone opens up opportunities for LeBron and AD to operate with more space. They need a proven winner who understands what it takes to compete for championships and brings that mentality every single night. Most importantly, they need someone who makes them immediately better without requiring years of development or adjustment. Now let me talk about what's happening in Golden State, because that situation is critical to understanding why a conversation that seemed impossible 6 months ago has suddenly become something worth exploring seriously. The Warriors are struggling in ways that franchise hasn't experienced in over a decade. They're currently fighting just to stay in playoff position, and the roster construction isn't working the way they envisioned. Stephen Curry, at 36 years old, is still playing at an incredibly high level, averaging over 26 points per game while shooting 44% from three-point range. He's defying Father Time just like LeBron, proving that elite skill and basketball IQ can compensate for physical decline. But here's where things get complicated for Golden State. They made moves this season expecting to extend their championship window, But those moves haven't translated into wins the way they anticipated. They're locked into significant salary commitments that limit their flexibility. Their young players haven't developed into consistent contributors fast enough. And most importantly, they're wasting what could be the final elite years of one of the greatest players in NBA history by fielding a roster that might not even make it out of the first round if they do manage to reach the playoffs. The Warriors organization faces a decision that no franchise wants to confront, but every organization eventually must. Do they continue trying to build around Curry with the current core, knowing that each year diminishes the probability of success? Or do they acknowledge that their championship window with this particular group has closed and make the difficult decision to pivot toward rebuilding for the future? That second option, as painful as it would be for Warriors fans, opens up possibilities that seemed unthinkable just months ago. This brings me to what the Lakers have been considering, and I want you to really focus on what I'm about to explain because the implications extend far beyond just this season. The Lakers front office has put together a proposal framework that would bring Stephen Curry to Los Angeles. I'm going to let that sink in for a moment because I know how massive that sounds. Stephen Curry, the greatest shooter in NBA history, the player who revolutionized how basketball is played, potentially joining LeBron James and Anthony Davis in purple and gold. Now, before you dismiss this as impossible, let me walk you through exactly why this makes sense from multiple angles and why conversations about this have reached a level of seriousness that goes beyond typical speculation. The financial component is complex but workable. Curry is making $55.7 million this season, with his contract running through 2026-27. That's an enormous number, but the Lakers can construct a package that works under the salary cap rules while also providing Golden State with assets that make sense for their timeline. The proposed package would likely center around D'Angelo Russell, whose contract provides significant salary matching capability. Russell is making $18.7 million this season and has been productive, but he's not the difference between the Lakers being a championship team or falling short. Adding Rui Hachimura at $17 million provides additional matching salary while giving Golden State a young forward with upside who fits their developmental timeline. The Lakers would also need to include future first-round picks, likely multiple selections, to make this proposal compelling enough for Golden State to seriously consider. Let me break down why this makes basketball sense for both teams. Starting with the Lakers' perspective, imagine the spacing that Curry provides in a lineup featuring LeBron and AD. Defenses would face impossible choices on every possession. Do you help off Curry to provide additional rim protection against LeBron's drives? That's leaving the greatest shooter ever open from 30 feet. Do you trap LeBron on the perimeter? That's giving Curry opportunities to attack closeouts or relocate for open threes. Do you focus defensive attention on AD in the post? That's allowing Curry and LeBron to run pick-and-roll actions that would be virtually unstoppable. The offensive efficiency this Lakers team would generate would be historically unprecedented. You're talking about three players who can create high-percentage shots for themselves and others, all operating in a system designed by a coaching staff that understands how to maximize talent. The regular season would essentially become a formality because this core would dominate almost every matchup. But more importantly, in playoff basketball where games slow down and execution matters most, having three legitimate closers who can score in isolation or within the flow of the offense gives you answers to any defensive scheme. Curry's game has evolved over his career in ways that make him even more valuable now than he was earlier. He's become one of the best off-ball movers in NBA history, constantly relocating and finding angles that create open looks. That skill set complements LeBron's playmaking perfectly because LeBron sees the floor better than almost anyone who's ever played, and giving him a target like Curry sprinting through screens and cutting backdoor would be devastating. The chemistry between elite players who understand winning basketball develops quickly, because they recognize immediately how to use each other's strengths. From Golden State's perspective, as painful as it would be to move on from Curry, this proposal gives them something they desperately need: financial flexibility and draft capital to rebuild properly. They've been stuck in this middle ground where they're not good enough to compete for championships, but not bad enough to land top draft picks. Trading Curry, as heartbreaking as it sounds for their fan base, allows them to accelerate a rebuild around younger pieces while honoring what he's meant to that franchise by sending him to a situation where he could win another championship. The draft picks the Lakers would send become incredibly valuable for Golden State's future. They could use those selections to either draft young talent or package them in additional trades to acquire players who fit their new timeline. Russell and Hachimura provide the Warriors with productive veterans who could be flipped again for more assets or kept as stopgap pieces while they develop their next core. This type of strategic rebuilding is how teams return to contention faster than organizations that try to remain competitive while their championship window closes. I know what some of you are thinking. Curry is a Warriors lifer. He's meant to finish his career in Golden State. This would never actually happen. And I understand that sentiment completely. The emotional attachment between Curry and that organization runs incredibly deep. But we've seen this story before in NBA history. Legendary players reach points where their teams can't provide them realistic championship opportunities anymore, and decisions get made based on basketball reality rather than sentiment. Kobe considered leaving. Jordan went to Washington. LeBron left Cleveland twice. Kareem forced his way out of Milwaukee. The league's history is filled with franchise icons playing elsewhere. The timing of this potential move matters enormously. Curry has 2.5 years remaining on his contract after this season. That's enough time to make multiple championship runs with the Lakers while he's still playing at this level. If the Warriors wait another year or two, Curry's trade value decreases and the Lakers' championship window with LeBron potentially closes. Both franchises have incentive to act now rather than waiting, which is why these discussions have progressed beyond initial exploratory conversations. Let me address the elephant in the room regarding how Lakers fans should feel about potentially trading Russell and Hachimura. Both players have contributed positively this season, and I'm not diminishing what they bring to the team. But we're talking about the opportunity to acquire Stephen Curry, a top 15 player of all time who's still performing at an all-NBA level. You make that move 100 times out of 100 if it's actually available. The sentimental attachment to current players can't override the opportunity to add someone who changes your championship probability from possible to probable. The practical challenges of integrating Curry into this Lakers system would be minimal because of his skill set and basketball IQ. He doesn't need the ball in his hands to be effective, which means LeBron can still operate as the primary playmaker. He's played alongside other stars throughout his career and understands how to maximize his impact within various offensive structures. His defensive limitations are real but manageable when you surround him with AD as the primary rim protector and length on the perimeter. The Lakers' coaching staff has proven they can implement defensive schemes that hide individual weaknesses while maximizing collective effectiveness. The psychological impact of this move would extend beyond just the Lakers roster. Every other contending team in the league would immediately reassess their championship odds because a Lakers team with LeBron, AD, and Curry becomes the prohibitive favorite to win it all. That's not hyperbole. That's a realistic evaluation of what three players of that caliber accomplish when they're all focused on the same goal. We saw what happened when LeBron and AD won the championship in 2020. Now, imagine adding the greatest shooter ever to that equation. The Western Conference playoff landscape would shift dramatically. Denver would still be formidable, but their defensive scheme that relies on protecting the paint while forcing perimeter shots becomes much less effective when you're dealing with Curry bombing from 30 feet. Phoenix would struggle to match up offensively despite their own star power. The Clippers, when healthy, would provide interesting matchups, but lack the depth to sustain a 7-game series. Every other team would essentially be playing for positioning because the Lakers would become the clear championship favorite. I want to be transparent about the legitimate concerns this move would create. The Lakers would be sacrificing almost all their remaining depth to make this happen financially. The roster around the Big Three would consist of minimum contract players and whatever exceptions the team could use to add pieces. That's a gamble that only works if the star players stay healthy throughout the season and playoffs. We've seen what happens when teams go all in with top-heavy rosters and injuries derail everything. That risk is real and worth acknowledging. The other concern involves how long this championship window would remain open. LeBron is 39, Curry is 36, and while both are defying conventional aging curves, Father Time remains undefeated in sports history. You're essentially looking at a 2 to 3 year window maximum, which means if something goes wrong in year 1, you've dramatically limited your opportunities. But here's my counterpoint to that concern. Championship windows don't stay open indefinitely, regardless of your decisions. The Lakers have a chance right now with this current LeBron version to win multiple championships, and adding Curry maximizes that probability even if it compresses the timeline. What this all comes down to is organizational philosophy and risk tolerance. Conservative franchises protect their future draft capital and maintain roster flexibility. Championship-focused organizations recognize that opportunities to add transformational talent don't come around often, and when they do, you have to be willing to pay the price required. Do you think this move makes us the championship favorite immediately? What concerns do you have about the depth sacrifices we'd be making? Your opinion matters to me, and I read every single comment, so let me know exactly what you're thinking about this potential blockbuster. If you want to stay ahead of every major development with the Lakers, if you want analysis that goes deeper than surface headlines, make sure you're subscribed to Lakers News Fan Report. Hit that notification bell, because in this league, things move fast, and I'll be here breaking down every move the moment it happens. Let's bring another championship to Los Angeles. Let's make history. Let's show the entire league what the Lakers organization is all about when we go all in for greatness.